My name is Elena Rodriguez. I'm 35 years old. And 3 months ago, I sent what I thought would be a simple text to my family group chat from Houston Airport. Landing at SeaTac at 1 p.m. Can someone pick me up? Just had brain surgery and can't drive. The responses came flooding in immediately. My mother, Patricia. We're swamped today, Elena. Just call an Uber. My sister, Jessica. Why don't you ever plan ahead? Marcus and I have wedding prep all day. 17 family members in that chat. 17 people living within 20 minutes of the airport. 17 different versions of no. What they didn't know was that someone else had been watching my story unfold from across the country. Someone who understood that the best caregivers are often the worst at asking for care. When I walked off that plane, there he stood at baggage claim holding a handwritten sign with my name. Alexander Chen, CEO of Northwest Medical Systems, my boss's boss's boss. He had flown 200 miles from San Francisco just to make sure I wasn't abandoned after brain surgery. 1 hour later, my phone exploded with 52 missed calls and 147 frantic text messages. They'd discovered who actually showed up for me, and suddenly the daughter they'd dismissed as just a nurse became very interesting to them. But the real earthquake happened at Jessica's wedding a week later, when Alexander stood up in that ballroom and told 200 guests exactly who I really was. If you've ever felt invisible to your own family, please subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. It's 2 p.m. here in Seattle, and I love connecting with people across different time zones. Today I'm sharing how one stranger's kindness exposed my family's cruelty and changed my life forever. To understand my story, you need to understand what it means to be the family scapegoat. In the Rodriguez household, our roles were cast early and enforced ruthlessly. Jessica, 2 years younger, was the golden child who could do no wrong. Marketing executive, perfect marriage to Marcus, beautiful home by 30. I was the cautionary tale, the one who wasted her intelligence on nursing, divorced at 33, living in a 1-bedroom apartment while Jessica lived her Instagram perfect life. The hierarchy showed itself in countless ways. At family gatherings, I sat at the kids' table until I was 32 because we need room for the real couples, Mom would explain, gesturing toward Jessica and Marcus. Even after earning my master's degree and becoming head nurse of pediatric oncology, I remained Elena, the divorced one who works with sick kids in family conversations. When Mom introduced us at social events, Jessica got the full resume while I got Elena's in healthcare, said with the same tone you'd use for Elena's unemployed. The financial exploitation was systematic and devastating. Over 4 years, I'd given Jessica $16,000 of my carefully saved money, $8,000 for her emergency wellness retreat after a bad breakup, another $8,000 for her wedding deposit when Marcus's investment funds were temporarily tied up. Family helps family, Mom would say whenever I hesitated. Jessica would do the same for you. But Jessica never had to, because I never asked for anything. Not money, not time, not even a ride from the airport after brain surgery. The emotional cost was even higher than the financial drain. I stopped accepting invitations from colleagues because I couldn't reciprocate their generosity. I avoided dating because how do you explain that your family treats you like an ATM they never acknowledge? The children in my pediatric ward began noticing my sadness. 7-year-old Maya, fighting leukemia with more courage than most adults, asked me once, "Miss Elena, why do you always look sad? Did someone hurt your feelings? How do you tell a dying child that yes, someone hurts your feelings every single day, and they're supposed to be the people who love you most?" My supervisor, Nancy, pulled me aside the week before my surgery. "Elena, you're the most dedicated nurse we have, but lately you seem diminished, like someone slowly turning off your light." She was right. Every family dinner where I was treated like hired help, every ignored text, every favor that flowed only one direction. They were all small deaths, pieces of my soul being chipped away until I was barely recognizable to myself. The breaking point came when Mom posted on Facebook about Jessica's promotion. So proud of my accomplished daughter, Jessica. Marketing director at 28 while planning her dream wedding. When someone asked about her other daughter in the comments, Mom replied, "Elena's fine. She works at the hospital. Not Elena saves children's lives," or Elena just became department head. Just fine, and works at the hospital, like I was a footnote in my own family's story. That's when I realized I had 2 tumors, one pressing on my optic nerve and one pressing on my spirit. The surgeon could remove the first one, but the second one, that was going to require a different kind of operation. I just didn't know yet that Alexander Chen was about to hand me the scalpel I needed to cut the toxicity out of my life forever. The morning I flew to Houston for surgery, I made myself a promise. After this procedure, either my family would see me for who I really was, or I would stop trying to be seen by them at all. The headache started in December, a persistent throb behind my right eye that I initially blamed on the intense 12-hour shifts in pediatric oncology. Caring for children fighting cancer requires everything you have, and I was used to exhaustion. But when my vision blurred during a critical IV insertion on a 4-year-old with neuroblastoma, I knew this wasn't just stress. The MRI results were terrifying. A meningioma pressing against my optic nerve, threatening permanent blindness if left untreated. My neurologist in Seattle referred me to Dr. Martinez in Houston, one of only 3 surgeons in the country capable of performing the delicate procedure to save my sight. During our video consultation, Dr. Martinez was clear. Elena, you'll need someone with you. 2 weeks minimum in Houston, and you absolutely cannot fly alone afterward. This isn't optional. I assured him I'd have support. That was my first lie. The night before I flew to Houston, I posted in our family group chat, surgery scheduled for March 15th at Methodist Hospital. Room 412 if anyone wants to visit. Mom responded with a thumbs-up emoji. Jessica didn't respond at all. My cousin Maria sent sending prayers. Not one person offered to come. Not one person asked if I was scared. I spent 14 days in that Houston hospital room completely alone. The nurses felt so sorry for me that they took turns eating lunch in my room, pretending they needed a quiet place to take their break. One nurse, Carmen, held my hand when I woke up from surgery, disoriented and terrified. "Where's your family, sweetheart?" she asked gently. "They're busy," I whispered, the excuse automatic even through the anesthesia fog. Carmen squeezed my hand tighter. She'd seen this before, the forgotten family member whose emergencies were never quite emergency enough. The tumor was successfully removed. My vision was saved, but lying in that hospital bed, I realized something else needed to be cut out of my life. I just didn't know the universe was about to hand me the tools to do it. March 29th, 11:47 a.m. I sat in Houston's airport, discharge papers in my lap, surgical site still throbbing despite pain medication. My hands shook as I typed into the family group chat. Landing at SeaTac at 1:00 p.m. Can someone pick me up? Just had surgery and can't drive. The typing indicators appeared immediately. Mom. We're swamped today, Elena. Just call an Uber. Jessica. Why don't you ever plan ahead? Marcus and I have wedding prep all day. Aunt Carol. Wish I could, but kids have soccer. Uncle Roberto. Working, sorry. 17 family members. 17 people within 20 minutes of my airport. 17 variations of no. I stared at the screen, waiting for someone, anyone to reconsider, to ask how the surgery went, to acknowledge that I just had brain surgery. Instead, Jessica sent a photo of wedding centerpieces. Which one do you guys prefer, roses or peonies? Need to decide today. The responses flooded in. Everyone had passionate opinions about flowers. No one had a single question about my tumor. I typed okay and turned off my phone. During the flight, I dozed fitfully, dreaming of the countless times I'd dropped everything for them. Driving Jessica to the airport at 4 a.m. for her honeymoon. Assembling furniture for Mom's new condo. Being the first to arrive and last to leave at every family emergency. When we began descent into Seattle, I turned my phone back on. 43 new messages about wedding planning. Not one about my recovery. That's when I saw a different notification. A private message from Alexander Chen. Elna, Nancy forwarded your family chat because she was concerned. I'm already at SeaTac. Don't take an Uber. I stared at the message, confused. Alexander Chen was in San Francisco. How could he be at my airport? Another message appeared. I flew up this morning. No one who saves children's lives should recover alone. Alexander Chen stood at baggage claim like something out of a movie. This billionaire CEO holding a handwritten sign with my name. looking completely out of place and perfectly comfortable at the same time. The man who ran a multi-billion-dollar hospital system had made a sign with a Sharpie and printer paper. "Elena," he said simply, "how are you feeling?" I started to say fine, that automatic response I'd perfected over years of being dismissed. But something in his eyes stopped me. "Honestly, like someone took an ice cream scoop to my brain." He smiled at the honesty. "Good. We can work with real." He took my bag before I could protest, his other hand gentle on my elbow as I swayed slightly. "Nancy's been keeping me updated," he explained, referring to my supervisor. 2 weeks alone in Houston after brain surgery. That's unacceptable." "My family was busy," I said, the excuse automatic. "I read the group chat," he said quietly. "Nancy showed me. Wedding centerpieces aren't more important than brain surgery, Elena." He'd arranged everything. A luxury car waited outside, stocked with my favorite coconut water and the exact pain medication I'd been prescribed. He'd even brought a neck pillow and a soft blanket. "How did you know all this?" I asked, overwhelmed. "I called Dr. Martinez. We trained together years ago. He told me about the incredible nurse whose family never showed up." During the drive, Alexander explained he'd been watching my work for months. The way I stayed overnight with scared children, how I'd learned sign language to communicate with deaf parents, the fund I'd secretly started for families who couldn't afford parking at the hospital. "You give everything to everyone, Elena," he observed. "But who takes care of you?" "I take care of myself," I replied, a lifetime of self-reliance speaking. "No," he corrected gently. "You survive by yourself. There's a difference." When we reached my apartment, he'd already arranged for a home health nurse to check on me daily. My refrigerator was stocked with healthy meals. Fresh sunflowers sat on my counter with a note from the pediatric ward. Maya insisted on sunflowers because they always face the light. "This is too much," I protested, tears starting to fall. "This is what family is supposed to do," he said firmly. "Real family. The kind you choose." As he prepared to leave, he placed an envelope on my coffee table. "Open this when you're feeling stronger," he said. "There are some changes coming to the hospital, Elena. Opportunities for growth. But first, you need to heal." That night, I slept for 12 hours straight, the first peaceful sleep I'd had in months. When I woke up, my phone was buzzing incessantly. 52 missed calls, 147 text messages. The family group chat had exploded. "Mom, why was Alexander Chen at the airport?" "Jessica, the Alexander Chen? The billionaire?" "Aunt Carol, how do you know him, Elena?" "Uncle Roberto, call me immediately." Suddenly, everyone remembered I existed. But it was a private text from Alexander that caught my attention. "Board meeting Thursday. Some big announcements coming. Rest up. You'll want to be clear-headed." I didn't understand what he meant. Not yet. I was too busy staring at the envelope on my coffee table, wondering what could possibly be inside that required me to be stronger to handle it. Over the next few days, strange things kept happening. Our chief medical officer called to check on me personally. The head of HR sent an enormous flower arrangement. People who'd never acknowledged my existence suddenly knew my name and were asking Nancy about my recovery. Jessica texted privately. "Marcus says Alexander Chen is restructuring the entire hospital system. Is that why he picked you up?" I didn't respond. I was too busy wondering what Thursday's board meeting would bring, and whether I was ready to open that envelope. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel ballroom sparkled with Jessica's vision of perfection: crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, and centerpieces that cost more than most people's monthly rent. I sat at the main table for the first time in years, my recent promotion from the kids section a transparent attempt to keep me close in case Alexander showed up. "Elena, where's your friend?" Mom whispered urgently, scanning the room. "He couldn't make it," I lied. Her face fell instantly, revealing exactly why I'd suddenly become worthy of the adult table. The reception was in full swing when Mom stood up, champagne glass in hand, commanding the microphone. "I want to toast my beautiful daughter Jessica," she began, her voice dripping with pride. "She's everything a mother could want. Successful, brilliant, about to make partner at her firm." The crowd murmured approval. Then she turned to me. "And of course there's Elena, she's in healthcare." A pause. That loaded, damning pause. It's so important to have realistic expectations in life, Mom continued, looking directly at me. Not everyone can be a Jessica. Some people are meant for simpler things. The room went silent. 200 people watched my public humiliation. Elena, Mom said, her voice carrying across the ballroom, you need to move. Marcus's business partner needs your seat. You understand, don't you? Family makes sacrifices. A complete stranger was more important than the daughter who'd helped pay for this wedding. I stood up, my legs shaking not from surgery recovery but from pure rage. Of course, I said quietly. Where would you like me to go? Jessica laughed, a cruel tinkling sound. There's a spot at table 12 with the +1s. The +1s table. After everything, I was being publicly demoted to wedding purgatory. As I walked across that ballroom, 200 pairs of eyes following my walk of shame, the main doors opened. Alexander Chen entered wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than Jessica's entire wedding dress, and the room collectively held its breath. He walked directly to me, ignoring everyone else. Sorry I'm late, he said, loud enough for all to hear. The board meeting ran long. We had something important to announce. Mom rushed over, her face cycling through panic and desperate charm. Mr. Chen, we're so honored you could come. Alexander looked at her coolly. I'm here for Elena. Only Elena. Then he turned to the room and smiled. Actually, perfect timing. I have an announcement to make. Before he could speak, Mom grabbed the microphone back, desperation poorly disguised as enthusiasm. Everyone, we're so blessed to have such successful daughters. She gestured wildly. Jessica's crushing it in marketing, and Elena, well, not everyone can be exceptional. She tries her best with her little nursing job. Little nursing job. The words hung in the air like poison. Jessica stood up, radiant in her designer gown. Mom's right. Elena's sweet, but she's never understood ambition. Remember her divorce? She didn't even fight for alimony, no killer instinct whatsoever. The crowd tittered nervously. This wasn't a toast anymore. It was a public execution. Marcus joined in. That's why Jessica and I work so well together. We're both alphas. No offense, Elena, but you're more of a support role person. Support role person. Like I was an NPC in my own life. Mom took the microphone again. Unlike Jessica, some people never learn to plan properly. Just last week, Elena couldn't even arrange her own ride from the airport after some minor procedure. Minor procedure. My brain surgery. Reduced to an inconvenience. That's when Alexander Chen took the microphone, and the room fell completely silent. Alexander Chen commanded the room with the quiet authority of someone who'd never needed to raise his voice to be heard. I'm Alexander Chen, CEO of Northwest Medical Systems, he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the ballroom. I'm here tonight for one reason, to celebrate Elena Rodriguez. Mom's face went pale. Jessica's champagne flute trembled in her hand. 3 hours ago, our board unanimously approved a historic appointment. Elena Rodriguez is now the youngest chief clinical officer in our hospital system's 150-year history. Gasps rippled through the ballroom like a shockwave. Her salary, Alexander continued, making direct eye contact with my mother, is $275,000 per year, with full benefits and a signing bonus I won't disclose in polite company. Jessica's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. But let me tell you what really matters, Alexander said, his voice warming with genuine admiration. Last month, Elena spent 19 hours straight with a dying child, never leaving her side until the little girl passed peacefully with her hand in Elena's. She's learned 5 languages to comfort patients' families. She personally funded a program that's helped over 100 families afford to stay near their hospitalized children. He turned to look directly at Mom. That little nursing job you mentioned? Elena runs a department of 250 nurses. She manages a budget of $18 million annually. She's been published in 4 medical journals and is considered one of the top pediatric oncology nurses in the country. The room was frozen, 200 people processing the truth. Robert's face had gone crimson. His law firm had been trying to land Northwest Medical's business for years. The minor procedure she had? Alexander's voice turned to steel. Brain surgery. A tumor that could have stolen her sight or killed her. She faced it completely alone, because her family was too busy with wedding centerpieces to care whether she lived or died. Mom tried to speak, But Alexander wasn't finished. Elena never told you any of this because she doesn't need to brag. Excellence speaks for itself. Unlike some people, she doesn't need to tear others down to build herself up. Then he delivered the killing blow. Oh, and Marcus, your firm has been pitching to us for 3 years. We've consistently declined because we only work with people who share our values. Real family values, not whatever performance you call family. Elena paid for 40% of this wedding, Alexander announced to the stunned crowd. Did you all know that? The family burden funded this celebration, where she was just publicly humiliated. Jessica's bridesmaids exchanged horrified looks. But here's the best part, Alexander continued, now smiling. Elena's too professional to tell you this, but I'm not. She's been recruited by Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, and Cedars-Sinai. She chose to stay with us because of the children in her care. That's the kind of person she is. He handed the microphone back to the stunned MC and walked over to me. Ready to go? He asked quietly. You don't belong here. The ballroom erupted. Half the guests started clapping, uncertain at first, then building to thunderous applause as they processed what they'd witnessed. The other half sat frozen, staring at my family like they were seeing monsters for the first time. Mom's carefully constructed facade cracked completely. Elena, sweetheart, she stammered into the microphone. We had no idea. Why didn't you tell us? Jessica grabbed the mic, her voice cracking. This is my wedding. Elena always has to make everything about her, but the damage was done. The whispers had started. Did she really pay for the wedding? Chief Clinical Officer at 35? Brain surgery alone? What kind of mother? As Alexander and I walked toward the doors, I heard Marcus hiss at Jessica. Your sister knows Alexander Chen and you never told me? Do you have any idea what you've cost us? I turned back one last time. Congratulations on your wedding, Jessica. Don't worry about paying me back. Consider it my wedding gift and my goodbye. The walk to those ballroom doors felt like the longest and shortest journey of my life. Behind us, Jessica's fairy tale wedding crumbled as guests whispered and pointed, as Marcus realized his wife had cost him millions, as Mom's social circle witnessed her cruelty firsthand. Within 48 hours, Marcus's law firm lost not just Northwest Medical's business, but 3 other hospital systems Alexander advised. $2 million in contracts gone. Jessica called me 17 times that Monday, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails, but I wasn't listening anymore. 6 months later, I stood before 300 healthcare workers at our annual conference, no longer the forgotten daughter or family burden, but Chief Clinical Officer Elena Rodriguez. I launched the Healthcare Heroes Support Fund for medical professionals dealing with family trauma. In just 6 months, we helped 62 nurses, 31 doctors, and 20 technicians set boundaries with toxic families. The strangest part was the peace. No more anxiety about family dinners. No more dread when my phone rang. No more making myself small so others could feel big. My real family, Alexander, Nancy, the pediatric ward staff, and especially the children who taught me that love shouldn't hurt, they showed me what family actually looks like. It looks like showing up. If you've ever felt invisible to your own family, drop "seen" in the comments. Share your boundary-setting stories. They help others heal. Subscribe if you want more real stories about choosing yourself without apology. Remember, you're not too sensitive. You're precisely powerful, and the day you leave that kid's table isn't selfish. It's honest. See you next time.